I like it. Welcome to All Football, Week 12 edition. All the games are done, including the 49ers game based on the score.
That's right. That's right. Real quick, for all the people in Mexico City, I got it. I got it on for y'all.
Oh, he's repping.
Bienvenidos a Only Football con Kyle y Rick.
See, yes, I totally agree. I was just telling Rick, and we're gonna have a little fantasy segment either, but I need CMC to totally not play the rest of this game to win my week. Which, with the score the way it is, it could very well go like that.
They need to just sit him right now. They just definitely need to sit him right now.
So, our last episode, I was just coming off of a flight, and I was coming from Vegas, and I let everybody know that I put in a little parlay, a little 9-gamer. And I just want everyone to know that the parlay, which we're going to break down all of our games, consists of the Bills, the Ravens, the Commanders, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the 49ers, the Broncos. And
look how sad he is.
If you know, you know. You already know.
You know.
We had the ball. We're running out the clock. I mean, I hit every single game. You know the little percentage thing that's like while the game's on, it's like percentage of winning. We were at like 98%. We were running the clock out. And they're like, you know what we should do here? We should just throw an incomplete pass so they get the ball back with time.
That just seems to be the theme this year in the NFL. You know, I mean, and I bet like it somehow the Cardinals are going to come back in this game, though. That's how crazy this NFL season is.
Yes.
Oh,
it has been insane. We'll get to that game, but man, that is a tough way to lose. I mean, I was already like looking at the tickets. I'm like, well, I got to go back to Vegas and pick up all this money, you know, and boom, it just all gets ripped from you. So if you,
boom, right in the kisser.
If you've been there, you know. I mean, I just got over it a couple hours ago. So, and then
it got over it. Yeah, all right.
Literally. And then it just got reactivated when the fucking 49ers won, because I'm like, that was the last one on my thing. So, whatever, man. We will just move on. That's life. We're gonna start off with a game that you were leaning towards, and I kind of changed your mind. I persuaded you a little bit. With your favorite team, which I don't feel like that happens very often. If you either know that you're going with that. Yeah, we did, right? We made the wrong decision. You watched that game. I didn't have, I mean, obviously I was looking at the score, but it looked like the Bears were going to win. And then I feel like after that kickoff return, it was just too much momentum shift to come back from. But at that moment, it felt like, okay, the Bears just scored, and I think they went up at 2 possessions at that point. And then the kickoff happened, and it was like, okay, well, now Atlanta, they didn't have the momentum. They just kind of neutralized things. So I don't really know what happened from that point. Obviously, I know Justin Fields hurt his shoulder at the end of the game, and I'll go to a bold prediction about that later. But could you just tell me, as a Bears fan, what actually happened? Was Atlanta better? Did the Bears kind of just drop the ball? I mean, what did you think?
So as far as the Bears Falcons, right? And like you said earlier, you persuaded me to go to the Bears because I really thought they had it. You know, the Falcons coming off that loss against the Panthers. And the history of coming off a loss against the Panthers, I think, was the opposing team loses the next week too, something like that. But the Bears play calling was really rough. I will say that the play calling was really rough, and I wouldn't say necessarily it was the kick return, but that was a huge momentum boost for the Falcons, because they did go into the half tied at 17-17. And that was with, the kick return touchdown. But the play calling really took a hit. Getsy really took a hit in play calling, especially in the second half. The Falcons go up 24-17, I believe, in the third. Yeah, it was the third quarter. It was a Mariota touchdown run. They went up 24-17, and I think Koo hit a field goal right after that. So they had just scored 10 unanswered points. And it seemed to me what happened was Getsy was trying to basically recreate what Fields had done the last 2-3 weeks, which was basically win the game with his legs, or at least attempt to win the game with his legs. So I was on Twitter all day, obviously, right? So if you follow me out on Twitter, you know I was tweeting about this game. And the biggest headache, at least for Bears fans on Twitter, on me, everyone, was that there wasn't enough passing plays. And that was really the biggest issue, was there wasn't enough passing plays. It was just recreation of Fields trying to get it done with his legs. That's really all Getsy was trying to do. And that is kind of what happened towards the end. Was even during the 2-minute drill, it was like rushing, QB sneaks, QB runs, ended up leading to Fields getting hurt. Not even like at the end, like even before that, he was taking hits, because one of the things that I had said on Big League Chicago earlier was when he had that really huge hit against that Lions player to score and he knocked him out. The feeling was like that could have easily also been Fields, been the one that got hurt. So he's taken a lot of damage on his body over the last month in these 4 or 5 games. So that was a big reason, but I think it was the play calling that really screwed him at the end. Again, Getsy was just trying to recreate that offense from Fields, and there was a pick six that really kind of screwed them, or not a pick six. I'm sorry, the kick return. Because look, the defense did their job. When you take away that kick return touchdown, they only gave up 20 points, right? And again, the Bears scored 24. That should have been a win. Yeah. But it was really the play calling that kind of screwed them at the end. The offensive line wasn't doing Justin Fields any favors. The best rated lineman in that game was our 5th round pick rookie, Braxton Jones, Mustipher, Riley Reef, Schofield, Whitehair. They all did terribly to protect Fields. So I could see why he would lean towards the run, but you also have to at least be able to get more pass plays in it. And really at the end of the day, the play calling, again, I'm just going to repeat it. Play calling at the end screwed the Bears, but give credit to Atlanta, give credit to Cordero Patterson for returning that touchdown, that kick return for a touchdown, because that was a huge boost. And Mariota did enough, to win this game against the Bears at home.
Yeah. I don't want to give them credit, man. I just,
I want my money.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you look at like Lamar Jackson putting on 15 pounds, the concern, especially you hearing it now with Buffalo, like, okay, it'll work out for 2-3 years to, let's say, play that style of football where Justin Fields is a dual threat. Yeah. But look at any quarterback that is playing in their late 30s. They don't do that. That style of play doesn't have a long shelf life. So the real question is, are the Bears willing to kind of hone that in and try to dial it down? Or do you just capitalize on it and celebrate that you have a quarterback for the first time, in the last God knows how long? Or try to find some kind of balance, because I think Justin Fields has shown a lot of promise. But like you said, he's already hurt. God forbid you guys were actually competing for, the number 1 or division, the North, right?
Let's say, at least the division. Could you imagine? Like, that would be insane.
This would be devastating. Like, it doesn't seem as big of a deal because you're 3-8. It kind of feels like, even though the season's not over yet, that there's nothing left to play for. But if you did, this injury would be huge.
Yes.
This would be a really, really big deal. So it's just something to keep in mind. I think that the Bears are in good hands moving forward. I'm not going to get too, caught up in this one game. But I watched Justin Fields kind of roll out. It was, I think, in the second quarter, and he ran it in himself. He rolled out to the left and just ran it in. And it just looks like he's like the most athletic person on the field when he makes those plays, because it just looks like he's, varsity playing on the freshman field. And that is,
Honestly, yeah.
yeah. And it passes the eye test. Like, how many people have played in the NFL, and like Drew Lock's a perfect example, Mitch Trubisky too, where you're like, okay, we can make a lot of excuses for them, but did they pass the eye test? Not
Yeah.
really. They had
Yeah.
moments. Justin Fields, even though they're 3-8, he's already passed the eye test with flying colors.
Yes. Yep.
And that's something you can build around and be happy about. And I guess if that's all you get from this season, that is a great season.
It's worth it. It's worth it 100%.
So yeah, man. I would have picked the Bears if it happened again, because I really thought that Cordell Patterson thing, I had no idea that he just broke the record. I was like, dude, I follow football very closely. I follow it very closely, and I had no idea Devin Hester, his record was even like close to being broken. So I don't know how I missed all those kick returns.
So I think Devin Hester's is overall returns on punts, kicks, and field goals, technically, because he did technically return a field goal once against the Giants. So I think Hester's record is overall versus like kick returns, punt returns, and just miscellaneous, I think. So yeah. But yeah, no,
that would make more sense.
Yeah, it's impressive what Cordero Patterson has done. 9 kickoff returns, and one of them was, or 1 or 2 was when he was with the Bears as well. So it's impressive. But I wanted to hear what was your conspiracy theory on Justin's shoulder injury?
Oh, not really a conspiracy, although that would be cool to have one of those. It's just, I don't think they're going to play Justin Fields for the rest of the year.
I would agree.
And that's pretty much, I think when your season's like this, you've seen what you need to see, be a little conservative. I mean, as a competitor, he probably wants to go out there and play, and you can make an argument that there's still like, there's still, I guess, something to gain for having him out there playing, getting better at reading defenses and stuff like that. But if he actually has a legitimate injury, and, Matt Eberflus didn't pour cold water on that when they asked him if it was a significant injury. So, I mean, if you're even in that kind of realm, look what happened to Baker Mayfield. We've never seen him play the same since he kind of pushed through that injury. And
in his last year in Cleveland.
Yeah. And I just feel like if I'm, upstairs for the Bears, I'm going to make that call and be like, you know what? God bless him as a competitor, but no,
And that's the argument we were making too on Big League Chicago. We're like, okay, we're going up against a Jets team whose defense just sacked Mac Jones 6 times. They have a good defense. Justin Fields has been getting hit consistently over the last 4 weeks. Even David Montgomery in a press conference earlier was like, wow, I take those kind of hits. I can only imagine what it's doing to Justin, right? So why start him with what is reported and then reported to be false, a dislocated shoulder by Adam Schefter. They said it was a dislocated shoulder, but then Adam Schefter said it wasn't. So why even start him against the Jets defense? And then why even start him against the Packers when we're going into our bye week the following week, right? Even if he's that much of a competitor and wants to play games for the rest of the season, sit him the next 2 weeks going into the bye, evaluate him during the bye. Can he play? Is it lingering? Don't start him. We finally have a quarterback. Don't start this guy if he's hurt.
Yeah. And right now, just looking at the NFC playoff picture, because you guys theoretically could go 10-8 if you went out. And I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but it's unlikely.
Very.
But you're in the NFC, so I mean, it's a little bit better than being in the AFC. Right now, your fourth, your I guess your wild card spots.
No, we'd go 9-8, not 10-8.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So I mean, you would need 49ers to lose, only win 4 more games. I'll put it that way. I don't know how many are left. I think 7. So they would need to drop like 4 of those.
Yeah.
So I guess you can make an argument that there's 1 more week before you're actually, I guess you won't be eliminated, but the odds would probably go from like 10 to 2 or something like
Mhm.
that. But I don't know. What do you think about that? And then we'll move on. Do you think that the Bears could, if they win out, they could potentially wild card in at 9-8 or no?
I don't think there's any way. It's a very strong NFC this year, as far as like the NFC East, and the
Yeah.
NFC West looks promising. With the 49ers and the Seahawks. So I don't think in any way, shape, or form the Bears should attempt to win out or should attempt to start Fields at all, unless after we're talking about after the bye week and he like feels good, there's no pain, he feels 100%. Okay, let's kind of throw him out there, let him build some more momentum or some more I guess more of a relationship with Chase Claypool, since he's going to be here another year. Try to get Kmet some more touches, try to get Mooney this, but other than that, if he's not feeling well, throw Trevor Siemian out there. I don't give a shit.
Hey, Trevor Siemian's all right.
He's not bad. He really isn't. He really is not bad.
He was our first quarterback when Manning retired. He was like, we brought in all these guys with bigger names, and he was, some 6th or 5th round draft pick kid that no one knew. And he just consistently beat everybody out and won the job the whole season. And since Manning retired, that season is our most wins since Manning retired was with Trevor Siemian. So there's worse people,
Exactly. And that's all we need. We just need someone, because we got 3 wins right now.
We're
playoffs. Playoffs. Even if we win out, there's no way we can make a wild card run, at least in my opinion. I mean, a lot of things got to happen. Crazier things have happened in the NFL. As the 49ers are kind of running out the clock here with a minute 20 left in the fourth. They're up 38-10. So that's a dub for us. But yeah, that's enough about the Bears and Justin Fields.
And I just won my fantasy game because they rested McCaffrey in the fourth.
Nice. And I think I also won mine, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, we will.
Let's talk about Panthers
Ravens.
Kind of a boring game. And by boring, I mean, it was more of a defensive game, right? For 3 quarters, basically. And then the Ravens broke out for 10 points in the fourth. And that was thanks to some turnovers from the defense, forced fumbles, 2 interceptions. And then Lamar Jackson had a rushing touchdown against a Panthers defense that has looked good consistently for 2 weeks. The game the week before against Atlanta, which has a pretty good offense, that I know of now too, against the Bears. And they had 3 sacks and blitzed Lamar 50% of his dropbacks. So they were definitely putting some pressure on. And unfortunately, they lose this game 13-3, I believe was the final score.
Yeah, 13-3.
13-3. They end up losing the game. But I mean, it's not something that you expected them to win either. And to be honest, I thought this was going to be a blowout, but it turned out to be a pretty defensive heavy game with the Panthers at the Ravens.
Yeah, well, Lamar, this was apparently a flu game for him. So he was sick going into the game. So I'm not going to read into it too much, but I definitely think that he wasn't 100% out there. It's just not typical Ravens to score only 13 points. And I'm not going to crown Carolina as, this stout defense that can shut down the Ravens, who put up more points against the Bills. I just think it was an off day, and luckily for them, they had Carolina. If you're going to have an off day, good thing it happened against a 3-8 Carolina team instead of somebody else, because anyone else, I mean, not anyone else, the Broncos, but
we'll get into it.
Yeah, most other teams would have capitalized on this and probably got the win. But I think Ravens kind of squeak by with a game that will be forgotten very easily when the season's over.
And Baker made a start for the Panthers. I almost wanted to see PJ Walker, because Baker's stat line, 21 for 33, 196 yards and 2 interceptions, nothing. And you mentioned Baker earlier. He has not played the same since his last year in Cleveland. And this is one of those clear examples of why. Did he start for the Panthers at the beginning of the year? Yeah, of course, because he's probably your best bet, outside of a Darnold that is hurt now, but better than PJ Walker, right? And right. I mean, it's not. It really isn't, because you rely on the defense, and at least PJ Tucker adds some sort of like wild card to him. But if it's me, I am starting Baker, but clearly Baker has shown who he is recently, and what he will be, I think. And I that's kind of Baker right now.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if he's still concussed from headbutting people with his helmet off.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But yeah, that was just not a very exciting game at all. And if the Ravens, you got to remember too, they scored 10 points in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So most of that game, it was 3-3, which is just very, very boring football.
Very boring.
Our next game, I don't know if you got to see the stories, but there was a huge snowstorm in Buffalo. Everyone's aware.
Yeah.
They moved the game to Ford Field in Detroit, where the Lions play. And they showed all these videos of people that are actually on the team being stuck inside their house. And like they said, the neighborly love, city of neighborly love.
Yeah.
They all came out and were shoveling, and they got the snow plow out there, and they're making lanes for them. And it was so cool, man, because I haven't seen a story like this since this happened in 1998. And weirdly enough, I believe it was the year the Broncos won the Super Bowl. And John Elway and Shannon Sharp, they love talking about this, because it was like, this is why I think the Bills are going to win now. I got this kind of like, oh, okay, this happened, because it really unites players to have these kind of experiences. It's so unique, and the rush to the airport, and everybody just kind of like, somehow by the time you put your uniform on, you're like, how did we get here? But let's go play ball. None of that matters anymore. Let's just go get this win. And it was like, in the moment they said it kind of sucked, but looking back on it from that Super Bowl, they're like, that was one of the best things that could have happened to our team.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen this since I've been watching football, that the same kind of story, and I was too young to remember the other one. So I thought, man, this would be a really good time, coming off back-to-back losses, for the team to really just kind of rally around each other, remember who they are. Obviously, if you watch the game, Buffalo started kind of slow, but then, they eventually kind of put it together. And I really think they got a lot of that confidence back. And this is probably a really great team building game. Not just getting a win after 2 losses, but the way it happened and the traveling. So I bet things are going pretty good in Buffalo around this time.
I could agree with like the team win, because it did feel that way. And you mentioned in the first half, it was rough, because honestly, 2/3 of their total yards, they didn't get until the second half. But this was a huge game for the running back, Singletary and James Cook. They both had 86 yards. Singletary had the score, but Josh Allen, for a third game in a row, has looked kind of not great, not MVP expected Josh Allen, right? Because look, 18 for 27, 197 yards and a touchdown. I'm not going to complain about that, especially if it's Justin Fields, right? But for a Bills team that is no longer playing in the snow, I think they almost wish they were playing in 6 feet of snow, because they played in a dome in Detroit, and this is kind of what happens to Josh Allen. Like, again, it's not expected, but an overall team win, yes, 100%, because the rushing game going. Josh Allen didn't throw any picks, so this was actually like a really good game. And then, the Browns could just not recover, because they were basically down the entire game. It was a blowout from the beginning, really. And they really only scored 2 touchdowns late in the game to make it look like a competitive score. So the Browns had nothing going all day. They held Nick Chubb, I think, to like 20 yards or something all day. He had a score, I believe, although I might be wrong about that. But the defense did enough. And I mean, they just kind of let the garbage time in the fourth quarter happen. And that's why it was a close game. I think, 31-23 Bills. But like you said, Bills get a win after 2 losses in a row. And that's probably the most important part.
Yeah. And probably one of the funny things is that they have a game on Thursday in Ford Field against the Lions.
Yeah. 2 weeks in a row. Yeah.
Yeah. So do they just stay? I mean, like, what do you do?
I think they would. I think they are staying. I 100% would stay.
I really want to know. I'll do some more research and have that by our next pod.
Good,
Uh,
good, good. I want a full report.
yeah, I need to know. And I also what did the end zone say? They didn't say Lions, right? I can't remember now. I watched the game.
I'm pretty sure they put Bills, or because I
Did
think it was
they?
supposed to be a Bills home game, so I think they
I-
put Bills.
Yeah, I feel like there was enough notice on that. And
Yeah.
before we move on though, there was some fans feeling like they were snubbed from a historical game. Um, I just don't think that it was realistic to
Mhm.
host a game in that stadium. But I could understand
No.
fans, because that's
Yeah.
what makes football crazy is that we play in anything, right?
Yeah.
Unless lightning, we don't play in lightning, but anything else is like a full on like full
Yeah.
send.
Let's go, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think people just probably didn't realize how severe it was,
Mhm.
and the fact that by Sunday it was still snowing, like it didn't stop.
Mhm. Mhm.
Maybe if it would have stopped, they could have done it. But I just think that's funny that they're going right back to
To
Detroit.
Ford
It's like
Field, yeah.
out of all places to get like stuck 2 weeks in a row, like you get stuck in Detroit.
Nobody wants to get stuck in Detroit. They're like, "Ugh,
They're like,
really?"
oh, I don't want to be the tough city. I want to.
Oh god. All right, well let's move on to our next game, and that was the Washington Commanders at the Houston Texans.
Blowout.
They walloped them, dude.
Yeah, didn't you pick the Texans?
No, God no.
I thought you said something about Davis Mills. You were like Davis Mills.
No.
I remember something. I'm gonna go back.
Hold on.
Uh,
I'm gonna double check here. I'm gonna double check because I'm pretty sure I would never
oh no,
ever
I
take the
got it.
Texans for
I got
everyone.
it. You yeah, you picked the Commanders. You know what you
Yeah.
did though? You probably like talked up the Texans and then picked the Commanders.
Well, and look, like this is what happened, right? Like the the Commanders are good with Taylor Heineke. Like they are good with Heineke. They're 6-5. They're over 500, and they're 4-1 with Heineke ever since he took over. 4-1.
Yeah.
That's that. I mean, what else can you do? What like
What else matters?
he was going forward, so that kind of takes. Yeah, what else really matters? And oh, by the way, they're getting Chase Young back next week to a defense in Washington that's already pretty stacked, especially those front four. So, it's not crazy to think that these Commanders can actually make a wild card spot because they played really well. Like I said, 4-1 with Heineke. Antonio Gibson is reemerged as a rusher. Curtis Samuel scored a rushing touchdown. The defense scored on a pick six in the first quarter. And the Texans are looking forward to the first pick in the draft because that's really all they've got to look forward to.
Yeah, and that's where they're headed. And they actually asked Ron Rivera about the decision to go with Heineke, and he was like, "What kind of went into that?" And he said he
Winning.
winning,
Yep.
yeah,
Winning.
And I was like, "Well, that's what I would have said because
Yeah.
as long as you're winning and you're not necessarily a franchise that's been known for doing that in a long time,
Yep.
you might as well just not change anything. I mean, if you're a Commanders fan and you're on that team right now, you better be not washing your jock strap. Everything needs to be exactly the same."
I love it. I love it.
But yeah,
and again,
I was just gonna say for the Texans, it's just man, there was
it's
a
not
little
much.
glimmer of hope in the beginning when they tied the Colts,
Mhm.
and then they struggled with the Broncos. It happened to be like our only win.
Yeah.
But back then it was like, oh, the Broncos are supposed to be good, so I thought the Texans were better. They just tied, and it's just
Mhm.
like, wow, was their stock way too high at that point in the season, right? Looking back on it.
And we were talking about them too. We were.
Yeah, we were like, man, that's the name of the game. That's the NFL. Like the Jaguars their stock was really high in week 3,
It
week
was.
4. So yeah,
Yep.
I think though the Texans are probably going to wrap up that first overall pick and probably take that quarterback out of Alabama,
Yes. Bryce Young.
Bryce Young, and
Yep.
we'll have plenty of time to talk about that in the offseason, but not really much else to talk about. Good for the Commanders next week going to Atlanta. Our next game is that same Colts team that tied, really an just underachieving, disappointing season for the Colts. They hired Jeff Saturday. They win their first game in Las Vegas. And then the real test is this week when they played the Eagles. I watched this game very closely. Eagles, they ended up getting the win at the last second. But
Yep,
the Colts controlled the entire game. They
they did.
played really good on defense. They ran the ball. They didn't get cute. They said, I'm going to run it, and there's nothing you can do about it. 3rd and
Yep.
1, they ran it.
Mhm.
They were the tougher. They were more physical.
Mhm.
Obviously, the Eagles are having problems with physicality, with their injuries on their D-line. That's why they brought in
Ndamukong
Ndamukong.
Suh. Yep.
And, it just the Colts were a better football team on Sunday, and the Eagles really, really got away with one. I mean,
Jalen Hurts.
yeah.
Yeah. Jalen Hurts
I'm really
got it.
impressed with what Jeff Saturday's been able to do in 2 weeks to this team, because this is kind of the Colts team we expected all year.
Mhm.
And it's probably really hard to just go into a place and assign, not just assign coaches, but get all the players to buy in and believe, especially with, a lot of the media stuff that was going on and
Yep.
the
Yep.
coaches thinking, oh, like you jumped me in the chain of command.
Mhm.
And the way he's got that whole team kind of in a union is just kind of impressive to
Yeah.
me to see. I thought that the Colts were gonna have a major, sober game on Sunday, and the Raiders were just really bad. But
Mhm.
man, the Colts looked like a good team. I don't know if you saw the game, but it was
It's a little bit, yeah.
it
It
was actually kind of shocking that the Eagles won at the end.
and it was because this, like you mentioned, the Colts defense was physical and they stopped the rushing game a lot. And that's, I mean, at the end of the day, that's how the Eagles won, right? But I don't want to say that the Eagles necessarily struggled with being physical, because when you kind of watch that game, that defense in the red zone, the Eagles defense in the red zone held them to field goals. This could have been a game way out of hand for the Eagles, and they probably would have lost this had their defense not really kind of buckled down in the red zone, because I think they ended up just giving up a field goals in the red zone, because the only offense that the Colts got was out of Jonathan Taylor. He's the only one that scored a touchdown on their side. But yeah, the defense for the Eagles in the red zone when it
Yeah, they
mattered,
held up.
they held up 100%. But yeah, I mean, for the Eagles, it was a really, really tough game. And really, at the end of the day, what you can say about the Eagles in this game is that they survived and they took the dub, luckily, at the end off Jalen Hurts,
Yeah.
off his feet. So,
And you didn't, I mean, as a person that picked the Eagles and like
yeah,
really
yeah,
had a lot leaning on this game, as much as I'm impressed with Indianapolis, I can say that because I have no resentment because the Eagles won, right?
mhm.
So I'm not like mad about the Colts because we get
He's so
the,
mad, guys.
yeah.
He's so mad.
But man, you just kind of had a feeling that Jalen Hurts was going to find a way to win the game. And
Yes.
when he did, I mean, I was very relieved, but at the same time, was I shocked? Not really. I was more shocked that they needed 14 points in the fourth quarter to
Mhm.
win. That's
Yeah.
what I was shocked about.
Did you
Uh,
did you see Sirianni at the end of the game when he was like yelling at the fans that were behind the bench?
oh, I wish. Is that on
Yeah, he was like,
Barstool?
"What's up?"
Is that on Barstool or something?
No, I don't know. It was just like on NFL, on like NFL Today or something, like one of
Oh,
the shows.
nice.
Like he got on top of the bench, was like yelling at the fan. I don't know if it was Colts fans or if it was Eagles fans, but they asked him about it, and he's like, "I'm just really emotional. It was a really emotional game." Blah blah.
It was. It was.
So
Yeah. It
yeah,
was. And there wasn't like a game that you remember the Colts or the Eagles playing like that. Like they've
yeah.
pretty much been so dominant in the third quarters that the games haven't come down that. But 14 points in the fourth. That last drive, there was a 4th and 1.
Yep.
If the Colts would have stopped them, the game would have been over. Um, the I don't know if you saw the formation, but the Jalen Hurts QB sneak with 2 players on each side. It's like a fullback and a running back stand here, and
Mhm.
then the quarterback would be like the microphone. And the moment he snaps the ball, these guys come behind and push, because you can
Oh
push.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because you can push players, but you can't pull them. That's the rule. So,
Oh, okay.
um, that is unstoppable. So, I mean, that 4th and 1, they did it on
And
every 4th and 1, 3rd and 1.
And that's the other thing too. Like, don't overthink a 4th and 1. QB sneak that shit. And
Yeah.
have, like you said, have your guys behind you push you towards that first down. It's as simple as that, really, when it comes down to it. Like, it shouldn't be any more complicated than that.
Yeah, if you have a 240-pound athletic quarterback, I mean, if you're you're Tom Brady, I'm probably not going to call that one every
yeah,
even though he's great at the QB sneak. But yeah, that's all I got for that game. I thought that the Eagles, it'll be interesting to see kind of what they are. It was like, did they play down? Did they play good? Are the Colts good? And there's usually around this time of year, not too much confusion anymore. A lot of things are understood, but I do have minor questions now about what happened really in this game. And I won't know until the Eagles and Colts play other people next week. So the next game is a game that actually, like your game, a kickoff return changed the whole game. This one happened with like 13 seconds left in the game.
A punt return. It was this one. Yep.
Did you see the highlight of it?
I did, and so I was watching the Bears game, and I had Red Zone up, and nice. I was kind of keeping an eye on this game because this one was like forgotten by Red Zone or something. I mean, because
there was just never in the Red Zone, bro.
Yeah, exactly, and it was just so boring. But every once in a while, they'll show a game like not in the Red Zone. They'll be like, "Oh, check it out!" Right? So that's what I had in my notes. What a boring game. Jets offense looked like garbage. Zach Wilson could not, for the life of him, get a pass completion. But Pat's offense looked just as bad with Mac Jones. This is another game kind of like the Ravens and the who was it? The Ravens and the Panthers, where it was just defense all day. And I mentioned it earlier. The Jets defense sacked Jones 6 times, forced them out of field goal range a lot of times. Quinnen Williams in that defensive front is so good for the Jets. Pat's defense sacked Wilson 4 times, held him to 104 yards of total offense. That's it.
Wow.
But like you mentioned, Marcus Jones on that punt return with literal seconds left, returned it all the way for a score. And that's basically all the scoring that happened. You know, the Patriots beat the Jets 10-3. And it was just a boring game. There really isn't much to say about it. It was so boring, but the press conferences after is what was probably the more entertaining part, at least on the Jets side, because you had Zach Wilson answering a question. One of the questions was, do you think you let down your defense? No, just straight up. He just said no, and that's it. Robert Salah was asked about replacing Zach Wilson. Hey, are you thinking about putting in somebody else?
You could ask you could ask Mac Jones the same damn question.
100%. You could ask Bill Belichick, hey, do you think Bailey Zappi would have done better?
Yeah.
And if you remember,
once in a while.
Yeah. And if you remember our when we were going over our predictions for week 11, I was like, these quarterbacks they're all the same guy. They all kind of suck right now. And I was like, pick your poison. Who do you want? Zach Wilson, Bailey Zappi, or Mac Jones? Like, this isn't going to be a fun game. And Garrett Wilson, the rookie wide receiver for the Jets, was like, yeah, this is unacceptable. I'm so tired of this.
Yeah. Well, you predicted that. I predicted the Jets and Giants to start losing. Looks like we're both a little bit right on that. But there's really not much to talk about. We'll go to your superstition. I believe 2-0 on your superstitions with never betting against the Saints now. I went with the Rams, and I lost. I'll let you take this one.
So the Saints beat the Rams. I was gonna say, just to kind of, as Kyle goes away from the screen for a bit, I'm surprised. I'm surprised here that Andy Dalton looked as good as he did. Let me just kind of fix the little prompt here. The Saints beat the Rams in a game that looked good for Andy Dalton. And this is kind of what Andy Dalton does, right? So just to kind of go over this game, he went 21 for 25, 260 yards and 3 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill combined for 94 yards rushing. And yeah, dude, Andy Dalton looked good. And this is after like our predictions episode where I was complaining about, why are we starting Andy Dalton? Why aren't we starting Jameis Winston or keeping Taysom Hill to keep it exciting? But they ended up beating the Rams 27-20. And I think it was pretty much in the bag up until the late minutes of the game. I just went over Andy Dalton's stats. Stafford had actually exited the game for concussion protocol. Rams relied on the third stringer Bryce Perkins, and the worst run game probably in the league, but only got 6 points in the second half. And this is the first time Sean McVay loses 4 in a row, but they have Chiefs next week, so you may as well make it 5 right now.
Yeah. I was actually watching some Rams like press conferences during the week because I was obviously wanting the Rams to win that game, but I don't know. It looked like a totally different team. Like I watched the Saints last week, and I liked what they had going, and then they lost some offensive linemen, and they couldn't run the ball. They had no time to pass the ball. And then Rams desperate for a win. And then, yeah, Andy Dalton, 22 fantasy points, just goes off. And it's like,
Right?
okay, well, like there's certain things like you can't be mad for not predicting. You can't be mad for not knowing that Andy Dalton was going to go off. You can't be mad for thinking Detroit is a good team now. Like you just like it's the NFL, and that's what makes it nearly impossible to be 100% accurate on these games. But I think if you're the Saints, it's got to be kind of encouraging to win like that without Alvin Kamara having a big game.
Yep.
Because I mean, that's not even your ceiling. What happened because Kamara didn't go off. So, yeah, I guess the Saints are probably still kind of in the hunt. I don't think that they're going to be good enough, but
no way.
They're definitely a feisty team. They're like the Atlanta of the NFC South. But yeah, I mean, not much else to say besides the Rams. And even as a person that predicted they missed the playoffs after week 1, I was not sure that 3-7 was on the table at that point. I mean,
they got the same record as the Bears.
Yeah. Wow. Just talk about how fast. I will say it this way. Talk about how hard it is for longevity of like success. Like you could win the Super Bowl and be 3-7, and 10 games after the Super Bowl, you're 3-7. That just is like mind-boggling to me. That, and I've seen it up in personal. So, yeah, unless you have like Patrick Mahomes, you can just assume you're going every year. He's like the LeBron James of our generation now. So,
yeah.
I feel bad for McVay though, man. He keeps like pouring his heart out, and he's like, you could tell he's doing everything he can, but they don't have an offensive line. They don't have a good running game right now. And sometimes, this is the last thing I'll say because it wasn't a very exciting game, but I do have to say this, that sometimes when you're losing, you feel like something needs to change. And if you haven't won in the past, usually you look at the two things, right? Do I have a quarterback? And if you do, then you fire the head coach. That's why Kingsbury is about to be on his way out. But in the Rams case, they just won a Super Bowl. So they're not going to move off of Sean McVay because they believe in him. They've seen what he's done, and he's never been this bad. Or had a team that has been this bad schedule-wise. So it just makes you wonder how many coaches were actually good coaches but got fired at 3-7 because they didn't have a Super Bowl the year before to kind of glue them to the franchise in the owner's eyes.
And you said you feel bad for him. I don't. I really don't feel bad for Sean McVay in this season. And the reason is because he has a Super Bowl and because he knew how they got that Super Bowl, right? F them picks. You're drinking out of my cup. I hate you. No, I'm just kidding. He knew exactly how he got there. Did he expect this type of regression the following season? Probably not, but I don't think we should feel bad for Sean McVay. Matthew Stafford is obviously going through a rough year too. And the regression, I feel like, is more just on Stafford. And you just lost your number one weapon in Cooper Kupp, but he threw a touchdown to Allen Robinson, who's been there this whole year, and he's not really utilizing all these guys, right? So I really don't feel bad for Sean McVay or the Rams. They won their Super Bowl. They were arguably the better team and they won it, right? So
Right.
good for them, but they knew exactly what they were getting into towards the future. And I think I've said it before, like, you tell me that we will win one Super Bowl every decade. That's 5 Super Bowls, 6, 7 in my lifetime, and I'm completely happy with that. And that's what happened. So,
Well, they only scored over 20 points 2 other times this whole year. So you remember that little sidebar we went on about they're not a better team without Cooper Cup, but maybe
yeah,
it'll allow him to actually go through progressions and not be just one
yeah.
dimensional.
I
I
think he did
mean,
spread the ball around. I think he
yeah,
did
he
spread
spread the
it
ball
around a bit.
around and they scored more points than they average per game. So
There's something, right?
there might be something there. Yeah.
Yeah. If you guys are joining us on this live stream, thank you for joining us. Remember to comment. We will try to read your comment here out loud. Kyle and I are going over week 11. We had Monday Night Football just finish. But yeah, Chad, hit us up in the comments and like and share us. But with that, let's go to our next game. The Lions at the New York Giants. Wow.
Holy crap.
You predicted
dude.
it. You predicted it.
Yeah, I don't think I did. Did I?
Well, you predicted the Giants losing.
Oh,
I predicted.
yeah.
I had predicted the Lions beating the Giants, but you predicted the Giants starting to lose along with the Jets like they did.
I did. Because the Giants have nothing besides Saquon Barkley, and the Lions were a perfect example of it. They have a really young front on their defensive side, Aiden Hutchinson and a couple other guys that they drafted because they got those high picks every year. Well, they just committed to shutting down the run, and they were like, "Well, beat us with Daniel Jones, right?" And I mean, Saquon Barkley, when I say shut down, I think he had like 20 something yards, or I mean, it was like you could probably see it really quick, but
yeah,
I mean,
I'll look it up.
Yeah, he was shut down. I mean, he was no factor in that entire game. So that was my concern kind of with the Giants. I was like, okay, well, Saquon Barkley going into this year,
22 yards.
22 yards. Yeah, I knew it was 20 something. I think it's safe to say going into this year, because of Saquon Barkley's injury, and it's a fair to assume that people, I don't want to say they thought he was over, but they didn't see him as a top 3 running back in the NFL. Not anymore. He was that, and then we kind of all moved on, and that's why we were surprised when he started running good again, right? So for a couple, I would say, for 5 weeks, the Giants got away with having a top 2 running back in the NFL, arguably, that people weren't game planning around stopping. And you're seeing that change now, where people are just going to stop the run and say, "Can you beat me with Daniel Jones?" And I think they answered that question. They can't. They
cannot.
Yeah, they looked rough, and Antoine St. Brown was effective in that game. The Lions were moving the ball. They were making really big stops. They're forcing turnovers. Like the Lions, that was the most complete team win I've seen from the Lions all year. It wasn't a high scoring shootout, and it wasn't just like a defensive slugfest. I mean, this was like every aspect of the game, the Lions were better than the Giants. Special teams, offense, and defense. And honestly, this is a game that I stopped watching in the third quarter because I was like, "Hey, man, the Lions got it today. When you got it, you got it." And
when you know, you know.
When you know, you know. And I knew pretty early. I was hoping the Giants could turn around. And now here's the last thing I'll say. The Giants are not a team that can ever afford to go down by 14 or more points.
Yeah.
They're just not. So the Chiefs are, I call them the Golden State Warriors of the NFL. They go down by 14, and their odds of winning probably only goes down like 5%. It's like 14
that
points.
Good.
Yeah, 14 points doesn't get you much against the Chiefs. You got to really, like, if you're up 24, then you start getting excited. But until then, you're like, it's the Chiefs. Calm down. The Giants, they have no ability to, right? If they're not running the ball, they have no pass game. You go up 14 points against this Giants team, they're pretty much screwed, man, because they can't just they can't put up points very fast. The only way that they can win games is to try to control the time of possession, run the ball, and play good defense. If you get down 14, you have to throw that plan away. And the problem is they don't have a plan B. And that is just what you get with this Daniel Jones led wide receivers. So yeah, that was the other reason in the third quarter I knew it was over. I was like, this team they don't have juice. They can't come back.
No. And you mentioned Daniel Jones, right? Like he was the only one who scored in the game for them, the rushing game. That was it. He was it. Like you said, beat us with the Daniel Jones. You can't, especially when you're going down, especially when Aiden Hutchinson, you mentioned him, is sacking you and intercepting you.
Yeah, that pick was nasty.
Yeah, it was. And you have the running backs, Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift for the Lions, scoring 4 touchdowns combined. 4 touchdowns from the rushing game. Not something you'd expect, but man, the Lions on this 3-game win streak are looking dangerous. And maybe, I think I had basically said they were done earlier. Maybe they're starting to turn it around for Dan Campbell. 3 wins in a row. They might make a run for a wild card because I think they're second in the NFC North right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if they start finally turning it around on this 3-game win streak and just this defense is stepping up. And this running game is starting to look very complete.
Well, personally, and this isn't just because of the Hard Knocks, I've always believed in Dan Campbell. And we were talking about this I think like there was a point they were like 1-5, right? And you were like, Dan Campbell's going to get fired. And I was like,
yeah,
this is a perfect example from what I just talked about with the Rams is like good organizations don't fall under peer pressure of a fan base. I understand it's important for money reasons that you want to keep your fans happy, but fans don't always know what's best. And if there's a petition,
I know what's best. I know what's best. Only I know what's best.
Yeah, probably. But, I mean, they make the hard decisions. They're the ones that get rid of Bradley Chubb and bring in a first because we gave it to the Seahawks. Yep. Like they do the things with no heart. It's a business deal, right? Dan Campbell is a good head coach. I don't care what the record says. All I know is that the Lions have more wins right now than they had all year last year, and it's week 12. And they were scoring points. Like there's no reason to. The Lions have been very unlucky. I think we can agree on that. We've seen some very unlucky things.
Yeah.
And that Bears game kind of felt like their luck changed for once. It was like, whoa.
It turned, yeah.
And they went in to New York as an away team on a 2-game win streak with so much confidence. I mean, talk about dabble size confidence. I mean, this is now, I think, in a very aggressive team because now they believe. They're like, okay, look at that team we just beat, right? They only lost 2 games. So now it's one thing to like believe and it's one thing to know. Like maybe they believe that they could beat elite teams, but now they just did it. Okay.
Yep.
So now they go back to Ford Field on a 3-game winning streak, knowing that they can beat elite teams in their conference, and they get ready for a Thursday night or Thanksgiving turkey game against the Giants, right?
The Bills.
Or I'm sorry, the Bills.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like the ultimate.
Yeah.
Like this set up perfectly.
Yep.
This looked not very interesting week 5, week 6. And then they go on this little win streak.
Yep.
They beat the dog shit out of the Giants on the road. And now they come home to take on a Buffalo team that's trying to get in their back in their winning ways. And they did win. But what a fun game all of a sudden. And we won't talk about that, but.
Oh yeah. And you know what, when Wednesday, when it comes to our prediction for week 12, it's going to be an interesting one, especially with the fact, like you said, that the Bills have already played, are staying in Detroit. They're no longer, I don't think they switch time zones, but it's still travel. So that's not going to affect
they go
them.
Back 1 hour. Yeah.
Oh, okay. They do. Okay. So pretty sure. It's going to be, and like you said, week 5, a few weeks ago, you would have told me this. I would have been like, okay, the Bills are going to destroy the Lions. And now it's like, this is going to be a game.
Yeah.
And, we talk games. What a game this was. We had Raiders at the Broncos. Kyle, I gotta say, man, this is like the 16 points seems to be the Mount Everest for Russ Wilson and the Broncos, because there is nothing else that they want to do more than score more than 16 points. They want to get over that hump, and they've done it, twice this year? 3 times?
Yeah.
Something like that. But I'm going to let you go off on the Broncos, because how they lost in OT was pretty sad.
Yeah, so this is just, if I could use one word to describe what this year has been, it's embarrassing. Honestly,
Yeah.
like that's the word.
Yeah.
It's truly embarrassing. Like the high knees, the cringe Russell Wilson, the let's ride. Everybody's having kind of a good time at the expense of this team.
Mhm.
And we can't do anything to like stop the bullying, because we just keep giving them more stuff to make fun of. And
honestly, though,
yeah, and it sucks, man, because like we haven't been good in a long time. And during this offseason, we thought the curse was like broken. The Manning curse was like lifted. And this is just truly so shocking, even though I'm living it in real time. Sometimes I feel like it's just, this can't be happening. It's very, very shocking. This is the worst team in the NFL. Maybe the Jaguars or the Texans.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, our only wins against the Texans, the Raiders were like considered the worst team, and they just beat us twice. They swept us.
Yeah.
They swept it. God damn it, I'm getting mad. All right, so let me start off by saying on Saturday night, Nathaniel Hackett had a meeting with the players, and he said that he was going to give Coach Kubiak, the Gary Kubiak, famous head coach, he won Super Bowl 50 with us, his son, Clint Kubiak, is one of our coaches. He said it was actually a really emotional speech, and he was like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help the Broncos win. And, the team kind of rallied. Right away, the offense looked good. I mean, they went out there. Their first drive with Clint Kubiak was a 90-yard touchdown drive.
Oh, wow.
Like, that's how it started. And, like, it was all, like, good vibes in Denver. Then the Raiders get the ball, and, like, the defense does defense stuff. We get the ball back, drive down. McManus puts it through the upright, and it's like, okay, it's 10-0. Things are feeling good. And I was like, well, we were up 10-0 against the Titans and lost. And we've been up 10-0 3 times and lost all of them. So it doesn't really mean that much at this point. And the Raiders go on like a touchdown drive. Then we get the ball back. Now the half's about to close. We're on the 3-yard line. And we snap the ball, hand it to Melvin Gordon. What did he do?
Fumbled.
Can't hold on to the ball. This turned out to be just like our week 4 match with the Raiders, the turning point of the game.
Yep.
We were about to go into the half, get and receive the ball in the third quarter with a 17-7 lead. And we fumble the ball, some offensive lineman jumps on it, and then the field goal to end the half is blocked. And it just felt like, oh, that thing's happening again.
Here it comes. Yeah.
And it's such a eerie feeling. It's almost like there's like a shadow of death that, like, I know it's a,
oh no,
it's just like once it's like once it had entered the stadium after that fumble in the block, it was almost like we all had so much to be happy about. We're like, no, the score looks a lot closer. We are handling the Raiders, but it's like we all knew. It was like, no, we've seen this every week. And then they somehow, I mean, they had the ball, they had the 3-point lead. There was less than 2 minutes left. All they had to do is run out the clock, and a coach decision, with Russell Wilson agreeing with it somehow.
Yeah.
The Raiders have no timeouts, is to throw the ball on third down, because then the game would be over if they get the first down. instead of run the ball and let the best defense in the NFL give the Raiders the ball on their 20-yard line with a minute and 10 seconds, right? So that the Russell Wilson doesn't have anyone open. No, he doesn't fall down. He doesn't take a knee. He throws an incompletion. It stops the clock. I don't get it, man. I don't understand how somebody that's been playing as long as Russell Wilson, I just don't get it. It's like, why wouldn't you do you not have any situational like
Yeah.
football? Like anybody I bet you Justin Fields would have known. Like, I mean, I'm dumbfounded. I'm a loss for words. And then they punt the ball. The Raiders go on their like only drive of the second half.
Yep.
They kick a long ass field goal. We
Goes
go into
through.
overtime.
Mm-hmm.
They get the toss, they get the ball, and then a completely just blown cover. They were supposed to be playing zone, but I don't know what happened with the play. But Devontae Adams just walks off and waves goodbye to all the Bronco fans, and
that was heartbreaking the way he just waved goodbye.
Yeah, and that was the play too, where I also lost $3,000 because of that play.
Oh, that's right. Yes, you did tell us.
I didn't know what to do. I called you. I literally didn't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, it was a true like. I can't believe that out of 9-game parlay that the one team to do this happens to be my team.
Yeah.
You know, if it could have been any other team to blow, I mean, they had a 95% chance of victory formation type vibes in the stadium. It was just like that Colts game we watched where we live streamed. Do you remember how it was like third down and they threw that interception?
And you were like, what's going on? Why are we not like running out the clock or not running out the clock, but trying to score instead of just like playing like
run the
game
ball.
manager?
Yeah, they hadn't scored that whole. Okay, so if you saw that, you saw the Raiders game. It just happened again. And it's like, wow. Like, and then it's like, why are we even keeping our head coach, Nathaniel Hackett? Like, okay, you brought in a guy to help with the clock management. Now you don't call offensive plays. It's like, bro, what do you do around here?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, like, what is your job? Like, I think he's a great guy. He means well. And it's okay. It didn't work out. But it's also new owners, and Peyton doesn't want to look like he whiffed on this coaching decision. So he's like trying to make it work. And I just feel like, I mean, the season just ended at week 11. And if you're a Broncos fan, this is our 5th year in a row that we go into Thanksgiving with nothing to be happy about. But this time we don't even have a pick to be happy about because we gave it to Seattle. And we're tied to a guy that cost $250 million that Drew Lock was playing better than. It's just, I don't, it's like, we are so fucked, you know, it's like, there's not much to even like, Sean Payton, if he becomes our next head coach, maybe things can turn around, but I don't even know if I want Russ on this team anymore. And it's sad that this has happened so quick.
It's getting bad for you guys. And I wish I could say, look, I've probably felt the way you felt before this season for like 3 years straight.
But like, with the hype?
But what?
But without the hype, right?
Well, no, I'm talking about the Nagy years. Like before, like when we still when we still had Mitch Trubisky and we were like, oh, let's start Nick Foles now. And we're like, what are we doing here? Right. It sucks, dude. And the worst part of it all is that it's his first year and you guys extended Russ Wilson before even watching him play. Because I bet you agree. If they didn't extend him and they just got him on the whatever was left on his original contract, whatever the rest of this year, you would not extend this guy at all.
Yeah.
You would 100% not extend this guy. And you would 100% probably get rid of Nathaniel Hackett. And that's actually my question. Is Nathaniel Hackett going to be the Broncos head coach next year?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the owners step in if Peyton doesn't fire him himself. But who I really feel bad for is Justin Simmons, an all-pro safety. And we have so many players, Dalton Reisner. These guys have been drafted into this team, and they don't even know what it's like to be in a playoff game. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I just feel so bad for players that are elite that don't get to go to the playoffs because we can't score more than 16 points. Like, this is a Super Bowl contending defense.
Mhm.
They have put us in position to only score more than 16 point. And I told you this before. If we scored 18 points in regulation every single game, we would be 9-1 right now.
Yeah, you guys would be
18 points, bro.
yeah.
That's not too much to ask for. Like,
No.
if you can't put up 18 points in 4 quarters of football, dude, this could be a 9-1 team. And that's what hurts the most is like this defense, man. I don't know how the offense can keep going into rooms, and eventually there's going to be some resentment. Like,
Yeah.
eventually it's going to be like, look, we're not going to put together any more 16-point allowed defense performances because first off, you guys could have 23 and outs a game, so we have to play 80% of the game.
Yeah.
That's why that stat is truly a miracle. I have no idea how they're doing it because the opportunities for opposing offenses are like more than any other team because we have the worst offense. So I just feel bad for that whole defense. I really think the
Yeah.
post-game conference in the locker room, the players were finally honest. Like DJ Jones was like, no, like it hurts. It hurts really bad to give it all you have and practice and do everything like a true professional and
Mhm.
then keep losing football games. And they don't have the answers. They're not like being, and then Russ gets into his damn press conference and he's like, one thing about me, I'm not going to waver. I'm not going to back down. I've lost a lot of football games. I've won a lot of football games. Right
Nerd.
now, we just got to get used to winning, and that's what I do. I'm a winner, and that's what I.
Such a nerd.
It's like, dude, turn the fucking like, take your batteries out and
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
Like,
Just be a human being
yeah,
for 5 minutes.
we're not riding. We never have. We never started riding anywhere. Like, it's
Oh
just
no.
it's so hard. It's I stopped, and this is weird for me. I watch every press conference. I stopped watching his press conferences. I said,
Yeah.
I've already
No,
seen
yeah.
it. I've
You
already
should.
seen it.
You
Yeah.
should.
And
Absolutely.
that's what I said. I was like, dude, I don't need to watch it anymore because I've already seen it. Unfortunately, it's the same damn thing every week. There's
Mhm.
nothing new to report ever from
Nothing.
Russell Wilson. So
No.
that's my Broncos tangent. I know it ran a little long, but this was kind of our season on Sunday,
Yeah.
and we had the opportunity to be a team that could try to get on a win streak here, and
Just
we have
didn't happen.
nothing left to play for. So
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit. Their offense looked good. Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams and David Carr, looked good. They put up 407 yards of offense. And of course, obviously they had the game winning touchdown there in overtime. So, and this is this is something that we predicted the Broncos to win because I was like, there's absolutely no way the Raiders led by Josh McDaniels and this like offense that just like is like a flash in the pan 1 week, 3 weeks in a row where they just play like garbage. They said we want this win and they took the win, after losing to the Colts, and the Colts ended up losing. So who knew? Maybe that was a flash in the pan. The Colts taking that dub, right? So, but I did want to give credit to the Raiders because yeah, the Broncos thing.
God.
It's rough. It's rough. I'm sorry.
The
Sorry.
salt,
It
yeah,
sucks.
the salt in the wound is that's our biggest rival, and they swept us. Like it all happened
Yeah.
at the same time. Like I had a trifecta of like the worst things that could possibly happen in
Mhm.
the same second when Devontae Adams scored that touchdown. You know what I mean? It was
It's
like
so bad.
it's the
Yeah.
loss, it's the season, it's the
Yeah.
Raiders, it's the money, and it all happened at the same moment. So
Yep. Let
I learned my lesson. We'll move on now.
yeah, let's move on to what was an absolute wallop of the Vikings by the Cowboys. Not it. This was upset, I believe, of the week for you, or it was
Yeah.
like one of my game of the
It
week.
was your game of the week,
It
and
was
I
my
said it was my upset of the week and my game of the week.
yeah, because I had the Vikings winning this at home, and you said no, the Cowboys are going to come in and win, and boy did they! They destroyed them 40-3.
Yeah.
This game was insane. In my notes, I was like, what happened to the Vikings? What just happened to the Vikings? Like, That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking the entire time I was watching this score. You know, they got a good overtime win against the Bills, and then they got manhandled by the Cowboys in their ridiculous offense. And Tony Pollard, he's the best running back in Dallas right now.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. There's really no debate about that, and there
Mm-hmm.
hasn't been for many weeks. But this
True.
kind of just cemented it. And then even CeeDee Lamb, I think he only had 5 catches, and that's because the pair of running backs went for I think 5 touchdowns or
Yeah.
four,
No,
4 or 5.
they went for 4. Yeah.
Yeah, four
Pollard,
touchdowns.
yeah, Pollard had I believe 2 receiving touchdowns. Elliott had 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't have to be like, oh, Tony Pollard's better than it is. The best case scenario is that you have a really good dual threat. Like that
Mm-hmm.
is like you want Ezekiel Elliott to compete, and you want Tony Pollard. Like that's a healthy competition. If you go into the playoffs with that defense with a 1-2 punch, and they're both
Mm-hmm.
playing really well. I mean, this team they could go all the way.
Yeah.
This is I mean, look what just happened. And I kind of knew, and the reason because Vikings with that was such an emotional victory Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
and the Cowboys were coming off a loss. So you just had like this kind of opposite force happening where like the Vikings, there was no way they were going to come into this 100%. And then the Cowboys were going to give you their best shot. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's what you got. This is what the Cowboys could look like in their best performance, and it just shows you where their ceiling is. I might have
Mm-hmm.
had them ranked a little too low. I remember asking you about that. I was like, "Are the Cowboys in your top 5?" And you were like, "No." And then,
Yeah.
but
Maybe after this performance, though, Jesus,
yeah, there. I mean, it begs the question, right? Is this a
I
top
think
5
so.
team? And or was the Vikings having a really bad week? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think the Cowboys definitely have something with that run game and with that defense. Dude, Micah Parsons is such a
Yeah.
monster. Like,
And it sucks because they were up big, and he got hurt in the third quarter. So Michael Parsons got hurt, and one of the questions is like, why was he still in there when you're leading by like 3 scores or whatever it was? So he is a monster though, and one of
I
the
would
things,
say three scores is still like in the third quarter. I would still have my starters in, and once you go up by that next 3 points, that's when you
but
pull them.
but I will say though, they like the defense for the Cowboys sacked Kirk Cousins 7 times. And
Jeez.
if you're going into the second half with only 3 points in the middle of the third quarter, I think it's pretty safe to say you're good. What I will say though is the Vikings, and this is kind of a thought I've had this entire time, their defense is pretty suspect. And games, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Obviously, they had that really bad game against the Eagles, giving up 24 points. They gave up 24 to the Lions. They gave up 25 to the Saints, 22 to the Bears when the Bears were like really bad, 26 to the Cardinals. To the Bills, they gave up 30, and now they gave up 40. So I don't think it's really too much to like. I don't want to say it's a huge surprise because their defense has always let up so many points, and luckily the offense has kind of stepped up to give them the dub. But man, this was just an absolute walloping. And the offense,
Yeah.
we talked about it, but Dak 22 for 25, 276 yards and the 2 touchdowns. The defense was just as good, if not better. This might be what cracks cracks the Cowboys in the top 5.
Yeah, and I think 2 things. I think the Cowboys had their best game, and I think the Vikings had a terrible day at the office. I'm not going to say, well, they never played a good defense. They played
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo, and they scored more
Yeah.
than 3 points on Buffalo. This truly was a bad day at the office, coming off that emotional win in Buffalo. But guess what? You have to be ready for that because what do you think happens in the
Yep.
playoffs? You're going to play a really hard team, and if you win, you're going to have to play another hard team, especially if you don't have a bye week. You're going to go play a team that just rested for a week. So
Yep.
you better get used to it. So we'll see. There's enough season left to make some more sense out of this, but I do
Mm-hmm.
think the Vikings are a lot better than this game uh depicts.
Mm-hmm.
But the Cowboys do have a higher ceiling than I thought they did after
Oh,
this.
100%. And I think I've said it before, like The Cowboys are legit, man. They lost. Who did they lose to the week
Philly.
before?
Oh, the Packers.
The Packers, right? And that was when you say like bad day at the office, like I feel like the Cowboys had more of a bad day at the office than the Vikings did this game. You know what I mean? Against the Packers. I
Well, the
would say that
Cowboys didn't have a bad day at the office. They played a pretty good game against the Packers, but the Packers just played their best game of the year.
yeah, and I guess I guess I would say more of that on the defense too. But I think this is more of like are the Vikings actually that good now? Now it's kind of like all the reluctancy to say the Vikings are a top 2, top 3 team is starting to come back and be like, maybe
Yeah.
everybody was right along the season, because again, the defense has been consistently not great, but the offense was there to pick them up. So now if you get both of them to just have bad games, like you said,
Yeah.
this happens in the playoffs, you're kind of screwed, right? Like
And I think you had them at number 2 last week on our power
I
rankings,
did.
on our top 5,
I did.
top 5, and I had
Yep.
them at 5, and you were like, "What?"
No, you have that reversed, I think.
No, I had them at oh, fuck
No.
Hey, you know we record these, like, we can
No,
go
I
back
don't
and-
think we do. No, actually, I don't think we do. All right, let's move on to our next game. We had the Bengals visiting the Steelers, and what a pretty good game. This was a nice little AFC North rivalry game. Another game where Joe Burrow looked really good. Bengals end up beating the Steelers 37-30, a high scoring game.
It wasn't as close as the score looks. There was some
Yeah, no, you're right.
Again.
Yeah, you're right. But one of the best parts of this game, that TJ Watt interception, while being blocked by an offensive lineman, was insane. It was probably I think it's going to go for like interception of the year, I think, defensively wise, because he just put his hands up. The ball hit him in the hands and he just corralled it in, took the interception and went with it. So, but unfortunately, the defense couldn't do enough against Burrow, who threw 4 touchdowns. Yeah, he had the 2 interceptions, but he threw 4 touchdowns. Even when Mixon came out of the game with an injury, Perrine, whatever his name is, came in and did really well for the Bengals. And this is, would you be surprised if I told you that this is the Bengals' first division win of the year? They were 0-3, I think, before this. Yeah. Isn't that kind of weird?
I know they lost the Steelers week 1. They lost to Cleveland on Thursday night, and I can't remember the other one. The Ravens.
Yeah, probably the Ravens. I think I think that was like one of the closer games. But yeah, this is their first division win of the year, and the Ravens are absolutely leading the division. But yeah, first division win of the year, and we also like this. This is for me, mostly for my fantasy. Najee Harris finally showed up for the Steelers, scoring 2 touchdowns and rushing for 90 yards.
Yeah,
and then threw a touchdown to Pickens. So that was kind of the offense for the Steelers.
Yeah, there was a guy, I like to show you these comments once in a while. He said the same old Steelers and the same old Mike Tomlin. And I replied to it, and I was like, are you seriously complaining about one of the few elite coaches in the NFL? You're literally entering your first losing season under Mike Tomlin since he took over in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I said, I hope you guys ship Mike Tomlin over to Denver and get a new coach so you can see what a bad coach looks like, you ungrateful ass fans.
They went to the playoffs last year with Big Ben.
Yeah, same old Steelers, same old Mike Tomlin. Who are you complaining about? Look, they went
in. Your winning coach?
Yeah, they threw Kenny Pickett into this season to see what he is, right? When you do that, you're not trying to go 500. You're not even trying to compete for the playoffs. You're trying to see if it doesn't work, if you should draft a different quarterback. I thought we all understood the game plan when this happened week 4. I guess some people missed the memo. They didn't throw Kenny Pickett out there week 4 as a rookie to make a playoff run. That would have been a spectacular surprise. But I mean, that's not what this ever was. And
spectacular surprise. I love that. No, you're 100% correct. And anybody complaining about Mike Tomlin and just the Steelers in general have probably been fans as much as this year. And that's it.
Yeah. Or they're born into I don't even know, dude.
Yeah. Mike Tomlin's won a Super Bowl, hasn't he? Didn't he win a Super Bowl?
Yeah, he won a Super Bowl like his first year as a coach or second.
Yeah. Like, come on. What are you guys complaining about? I think the Steelers are like second or third in Super Bowl wins, like just overall. So what are you guys crying about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Bengals are just a better team this year. They have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and what's the Super Bowl last year?
They went
Right?
they won in 2004 and I remember that cuz they beat the Broncos in the AFC Championship with Jake the
Oh
porn
yeah.
star porn star stash, Jake Plummer.
Jake Plummer. I love Jake Plummer. He's such a chill bro. I love it.
He is. Now he does mushrooms and
Yeah, I
like
know.
you saw that?
Yeah, I saw an interview with him on a part of my take. It was
He came
hilarious.
on my buddy's podcast that I was telling you about.
Really? Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
and he was like talking about this like new app he made where he's like it helps like people learn the offensive playbook. It's like a fun app, fun way to
Yeah.
learn, but yeah, he was trying to promote it so he came on his podcast, but then he talked about like growing mushrooms and stuff. It was
I love it. That's
he's such
hilarious.
a chill dude.
I know he's so chill. But yeah, the Bengals beat the Steelers for their first AFC North Division win. They moved to 6-4. Obviously, the Ravens 7-3, leading that division right now. But hey, the Bengals are knocking. The Bengals are knocking right now.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else on this game before we move on?
No, I was just gonna move on. I was gonna say that I talked to my brother. I was like, I like the points was 8 against the Chiefs and the Chargers. I said
Mhm.
I like the Chiefs to win, but take the Chargers with the points because I think they'll lose by less than 8. But this was really
Exactly. What
yeah,
happened?
the Chiefs win by 3, and what do you know? Mahomes throws 3 touchdowns, 330 yards passing, but that is just not a big deal anymore. That is what we have come accustomed to.
Mhm.
We have to plan around that. I mean, when they had the ball, they had to drive down and score. They had to do that to win the game. The Chargers were playing with the lead, and nobody blinked. Everybody knew what was going to happen.
Yep.
Travis Kelce, once he was man, Pat already knew where he's going with the ball. He said in the post conference, when I saw they were manning up on Kelce, I already knew what I was going to do. So, I mean, it just kind of feels like the Chiefs are just better than everyone else, and it's like the Chiefs and then it's officially the Chiefs and maybe everyone else, right?
If Patrick Mahomes is not topping your list for NFL MVP this year, you're wrong.
I got Jalen
100%.
Hurts. I like Jalen Hurts.
100% you're wrong. It is Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs, and everyone else below them.
I can see why you'd make the argument.
And I there's no other way to put it, man. Like he went 20 for 34, 329 yards, 3 touchdowns, all to Kelce with less than 2 minutes to go to win the game as they were down. And you said it before. The Chiefs being down 14 is way different in being down 14 points in the fourth quarter, let's say, right?
Yeah.
And that right there is why I think Patrick Mahomes deserves his second or third MVP of his career, because it's just he's so much more different. He sees the game differently. He reacts differently. He just does these things that just make him like some sort of like superhero in the NFL. And he's a cheat code. And look what he's done without the prior cheat code, Tyreek Hill. He's still leading the Chiefs to an 8-2 record.
Yeah, he's got more big plays without Tyreek Hill than he had last year.
Exactly. And he's doing it with, I don't want to say, I mean, anytime you lose a Tyreek Hill, your offensive weapons do lose. You lose an offensive weapon, a huge offensive weapon, right? And you digress or regress, whatever. But he just has been able to do it with Juju Smith, with Pacheco, with obviously, luckily he still has Travis Kelce there, and Travis Kelce is still a monster. But man, dude, this and now this defense, even though they did let up 27 points to the Chargers, this defense with Christian Jones at the helm, it just looks good. It like I said, if you don't have Patrick Mahomes as your MVP for the NFL this year, it's you're wrong, and that's kind of it, man. Unless he completely falls off the edge, there's really no other argument, I think.
Well, you got the Chiefs scoring 14 points in the fourth quarter to win, and you got the Eagles who did that also on Sunday. And you also got the Chiefs with one less win than the Eagles. And you also have undoubtedly a Hall of Fame coach in Andy Reid. So really, what I do is I look at, okay, if
Mhm.
Mahomes wasn't on the team and Hurts wasn't on his team, what would these two teams look like? Well, they
Mhm.
would probably both be significantly worse, right? So you have to go an extra step, right? Who's
I
surrounded
think
by
the
a
Eagles
better.
would be worse.
I Exactly, and that's why
Yeah.
Hurts is an MVP, is because he came in and he is the most valuable player to his team because he has the Eagles at 9-1, the first
Mhm.
seed in the NFC, with Sirianni, who looks really great. That's what happens when you have a great coach, and that's is it Belichick or is it Tom Brady? Is it Andy
Yeah.
Reid or is it Mahomes?
Yeah.
Now Sirianni looks like a great coach, but let's be real.
Sirianni.
Yeah, Sirianni. This is we don't do names. But yeah, I don't know how in just a short time how he's just completely turned around a franchise. I get the Mahomes thing, but
Yeah.
it also feels kind of like that whole victim of the moment. Like, let's say the Chiefs take this L, right? Because they almost lost,
Mhm.
and now Hurts has two more wins than Kansas City, and it's not just about wins. So I'm not going to make it
Yeah.
about that, but it is about the impact you've made on your team. And like you said, you think that without Mahomes, the Chiefs would be a little bit better than Hurts led Eagles team, and I agree with that. And that's kind of what I think. I'm really interested to hear what our people think. We could do a whole segment on this on another
Yeah.
moment in time, but you did say if you don't have Mahomes, you're wrong. So I had to defend myself because I do
Yeah.
have
Yeah. You gotta
Hurts,
defend
but
your wrong
I
take.
had
Got
to,
it.
man.
Uh, no, and credit to Hurts, obviously what he's done with the Eagles from being drafted, last year being his rookie season into this year. It's just it is amazing what he's done. He's
Well,
going to make the playoffs this year, and he made the
yeah.
playoffs last year with a really not great Eagles team. So yeah, credit to
Well,
him.
he lost to the Commanders, and then he almost lost Sunday. So now it's like we
Yeah.
forgot about him already.
I don't want to say, and you're right. We could do a whole segment, so I don't want to get into it. But I just
But
think Mahomes is just so much better, and he has been consistently better. And I don't think we should forget that either.
but
Obviously, like the NFL MVP should be like what you said and what we've talked about a couple episodes ago. Like, how important are they to their team? And would they be worse off without them? Like significantly worse? Yes. But I think we also should take into consideration is how long Mahomes has been doing it and how consistent he is. And he's been very consistent. And the Chargers have consistently been on the wrong end of a lot of games because they they can't catch a break either, man. They're similar to they're similar to the Broncos this season in the fact that they look good every game. They do what they're supposed to. They score a lot of points. Their offense looks very good. And they just can't close out because of injuries. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen actually came back, but Mike Williams actually exited
yeah,
after his foot or something like
it's
that.
like the first quarter,
And yeah, it was the first quarter, so it's tough to be a Chargers fan, man. It really
and that
is.
and that game was the difference between being 3 games back from the Chargers and being 1 game back from the Chargers. So
Yep.
that is just really unfortunate if you're a Chargers fan. And
Yep.
the last thing I'll say, it's a 49ers game. They brought up George Kittle, and
Mm-hmm.
they said since 2017, he had, I think it was like 3,000 receiving yards. And it said number one was Travis Kelce with over 2,000 more yards, which is insane, bro.
It is.
That's like 2 seasons of
Mm-hmm.
playing football as a wide receiver,
Yeah.
not even as a
Yeah.
tight end.
Yeah.
So you do have to splash in Travis Kelce. Mahomes is
Mm-hmm.
extremely lucky to have a guy like Travis Kelce. But
Oh
we'll
yeah.
move on to the Monday night game in Mexico City, which I didn't know that this
Mexico.
Mexico. I didn't know that this game was being played on such a high altitude. I had no idea. I
Yeah.
guess I assumed it was like played on a beach in Cancun or something because
You
I'm just a
I
dumb
wish.
gringo.
I
Um,
wish.
but
Dude,
yeah, this
the
was like
Cardinals
in the
got smoked.
mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, it's high elevation in Mexico City.
yeah, it was
100%.
like five. It was. They said it was like I think 7,000 feet above sea level, which that's like two
Really? I didn't
thousand
know about
higher
that.
than the Broncos stadium.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't even know about that either.
it blew my mind when I saw it. It's like, where are they
Yeah.
playing? I'm gonna look into it. I thought you might know, but no.
So the air might be
Oh, it
the
was.
the air pressure was a huge, and
Yeah.
I guess Jimmy G's used to it because he absolutely smoked the Cardinals in this game, 38-10.
Is Sarian or is Kingsbury gonna be fired, do you think, this season?
Yes,
Is it gonna
I
happen
I don't have an
tomorrow?
answer for that. Is there
Siri,
I
I wasn't asking you, Siri.
I think he is gone at the end of the year. Yep.
Okay, he gets
I think he's
till
gone
the
at
end
the
of the year.
Yeah, I don't think I think he has done enough in his first 2-3 years as the coach for the Cardinals to not get fired mid-season. I think they're going to give him what's the word I'm looking for?
The
Give
boot?
him the grace of coaching for
grace.
the rest of the year before being like, "Hey, bruh, thanks, but
Yeah.
I'll see you later." I
Well,
guess
see,
you know what I
they're
mean.
also like they just extended him, so you got to think financially too. Like,
Yeah, that's a bad part.
yeah, because there's a lot of teams like this. Like the Raiders can't afford to fire Josh McDaniels, and
Mm,
and it's like you don't think about coaches and money, but it's a factor. I mean, it is a
yeah,
real like thing to consider when I mean, how much money did Urban Meyer steal from Jacksonville? Like, I think he was getting paid one of the highest like coaching salaries in the NFL, and
he was.
what did he
Yeah.
make it 8 weeks and he was
Mhm.
fired? It was like the
Dude,
fastest.
it's a great gig to be a terrible head coach for the NFL
Yeah,
or for college. It's
I need
great
it's like
because
I
you just
need
get
you.
bought out.
Yeah, he's like, I need you to lose every game. You're gonna go to Ohio, where you're from. I need you to go out to the bar, get a stinky finger, and you'll be fired. Oh yeah, and we'll give you $20 million to do it.
To never come back again. And it's like, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah,
um, but no, man, I think Cliff has done enough in his past years with the Cardinals to be like, hey, you're gonna see the end of the year, but the issues you've had with Kyler and this offense and not winning, that's it. That's kind of what's getting you fired, man. And that's really it because we just like they committed to Cliff, but they also committed to Kyler in the offseason.
yeah.
I think
Well,
you said it best yourself a few weeks ago where you're like, you're committing to the talent versus the coach. Always.
yeah, always, and you can hardly really judge this game because I think San Francisco was like one. Arizona had their number in the division in the
Mm-hmm.
past games, so usually Arizona was winning these, and Colt McCoy just couldn't be a solid
Yeah.
replacement.
Yeah.
But I still think even with Kyler, who knows, man? I mean, who knows? I just
This is a
it's
different game with Kyler.
yeah, it's a different game,
Yeah.
but where Arizona's at right now as a team in the year, it just kind of feels like it doesn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
And that's unfortunate because nobody's really going to give Arizona a pass for not having Kyler out there just because of where they're at right now. If they were 7-4
Yeah.
and they lost this, they'd be like, "Oh, Kyler will be back soon." So I thought
Exactly.
Colt McCoy though, he looked pretty decent. He was getting rid of the ball, I think 2.4-second average, which is faster than the average quarterback. So he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't holding it very long. Um, he had like one. I saw his bad throw that kind of sailed over the running back and then got intercepted, and then it was just kind of all over. It looks like they benched him, or did he get hurt? Because I
I don't know
see
if
this.
they sorry, what?
No, I just see another quarterback, Trace McSorley, that went 6 for
Yeah, I guess
10.
they benched him because he had gotten intercepted, or maybe he was actually hurt. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't get to watch all of the game. I was kind of in and out.
Well, it was
But
only 10-17 when he threw the pick, so that'd be weird to bench you at that
no, then
point.
yeah, and that is kind of weird then. But dude, he had to let go of the ball quick though, because that 49ers defensive front was so good.
Yeah.
They were getting to either McSorley or McCoy, and Jimmy G 4 touchdowns with only 200 and some yards, 228 yards, but he threw 4 touchdowns. Deebo Samuel rushed for a touchdown.
Old
This
Johnny
was a
G.
old Johnny G, old porn star Johnny. This was a very, very good game for the 49ers. This was kind of like what you were saying about a complete team win
Yeah.
for who was it, the Lions. This
Yeah.
was something that you, as a 49ers fan, I'd be like, wow, is this what we can do every week? But it's also against the Cardinals, so maybe
Yeah.
not every week, but it can definitely be done.
That guy, that 49ers fan in Vegas, he told me this was going to happen. I believed him too.
He did, you're right, and that's why you
Yeah.
picked this game too, right? You picked the 49ers.
Yeah, but I also didn't know that Kyler wasn't going to play, or it would have been way easier for me to defend.
Okay, yeah.
But
That's a huge factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you would have seen this final score, and then I would have told you that San Francisco would be losing going into the second quarter, you would have been like, "What?"
I would have been like, that was. I would have been like, that must have been a crazy last 3 quarters of that game because Jesus, 38-10.
Yeah, because it was 3-0, Arizona winning going into the second, and
And
then
if you would have told me that Jimmy G threw 4 touchdowns, I would have been like, you're absolutely high. You need help right now.
yeah, you're like checking to see if he's on your fantasy really quick. You're like,
Can I pick him up?
you're like, let me pick up.
Game.
Those are the pickups, and then they never repeat. It's
Never,
like, yeah,
never.
Yeah, 25 fantasy points. But yeah, I don't got much to say about that game besides 49ers had a really complete game. Colt McCoy is no Kyler, and Arizona, who knows if it would have mattered the way they've been playing.
George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk both had 2 scores, and I didn't know this, but the George Kittle jersey is actually like top 3, top 4 selling in Mexico. So the fact that he actually went to Mexico to play this game is actually really cool.
What are the masks called?
Oh,
again?
the luchador masks.
They gave him one. Did you see him?
I did. I saw it. It was actually really cool.
It was so dope. Yeah, he put it on. That was cool that he was able to like give them a show because they probably think like he's like their because he kind of like carries himself like a professional wrestler. You know, like
he
with
does,
the long
with like
hair.
the attitude and all that. Yeah.
So he's probably like the most personality out of anybody there. And he put on a show for the city. So that's cool.
And it was awesome seeing it in Mexico too. They had like a halftime show by one of the local well, not local, but it was a Mexico band. It was really cool. So that was really cool to see. Just the atmosphere in these international games. Like you saw the one where Tom Brady went to Germany, the London games. Awesome. I love every single international game that goes on, but 49ers destroyed the Cardinals in this one. I got nothing else unless you got something.
No, there is a cool podcast with the teams that went to Germany and the teams that went. You should hear their stories though about like experiencing Germany and how lucky they're that their job took them there. There's so many cool things. And Troy Aikman and Joe Buck on the I promised I would tell all of our people this.
Yeah.
Because you know how Troy Aikman always looks like he has seriously got to stop drinking because his face is like red and his eyes are bloodshot.
Yeah, every time, every week, I'm like, is this guy okay?
Well, he finally like looked normal in the booth, and I was like riding the bike at the gym, and I Googled. I was like, did Troy Aikman stop drinking? And instead of finding the answer to that question, I found Colin Coward. He has a podcast where I told you he says like shit and smokes weed and stuff because he's like off air, and he just gets a little naughty. Just gets a little naughty. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
It's so fucking funny though. It's so gold. But he had Joe Buck on, and they were talking, and they talked about how they drink like tequila and grapefruits in the booth, like while they're calling the games. So like I didn't know that they were like, they're like legitimately like having cocktails while they call the game.
That's hilarious.
He was like, it reminds me not to take it too serious, and also having a drink makes me feel like I'm attending a sports event and not, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, but it's just like it's so funny because I was like, I knew it. I knew you guys were getting fucked up in there.
I knew it. Oh, well, that was week 11 for you guys. It ended off awesome. I mean, it was a blowout by the 49ers, but it ended off awesome in Mexico City. Not a huge time zone change either, so that was really nice to actually be able to catch it for Monday Night Football. Yeah. So that was awesome. Let's go over our record. I think overall, so our last overall record was 50-29. I'm going to try to count on air right now, live, how many wins we got. So we got 50. We hit on the Titans 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58. All right. So we have 58 wins to, let's see, we had 29 losses, 30. That was the Bears. 31. That was the Broncos. So 31 losses overall. And now for Kyle, he ended last week, week 10, 23-19. Let's see how many wins he had this week. He had 1 win. So he went to 24 and let's see, 23, 24, 19, 19, 20, 21, 22, 22 losses. He is at 24 and 22. And since basically we're the inverse, I am 22 and 24 week 11. Not bad. We're killing it on our overall 58 and 31. We're almost like, we've
we're
almost got
hitting better than Vegas.
That, I mean, that's true. And somehow yet somehow you still lost. You still couldn't get that money. So I'm not going to say you lost it, but you didn't win it. Like, that's BS, right? But yeah, that's our overall record. Again, that record overall 58-31 head to head. Kyle is still leading by 2 games, 24-22. I am 22 and 24. How do you feel about that record, Kyle?
I feel really good about it. I mean, we agree on a lot of games last week.
It's gotten easier too.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten a lot easier. And the next week is really challenging. I took a glance ahead. Very tough week as far as who to pick and where to go. So, well, you're allowed to look. You just
no, you're not.
How do you think I do this? You think I just like the day of like
he's calling Vegas every day. But yeah, that is our record. Let's go into final segment here. Let's go into some fantasy talk. Kyle.
Yeah.
How is your fantasy team doing? I think you said you won the game today.
Yeah, they took out CMC, so I was able to squeak away with the win. And as you guys know, I started the year 0-5. Since then, I've gone 5-1, and nice. I've worked my way back into. I mean, I could clinch a playoff spot, or not clinch, but it's not off the table. I'm only, what is it? Yeah, it's like there's a 3-way tie now for second. Yeah. So, if you. I looked at the ESPN fantasy app, like it'll tell you your percentage of chances to make the playoffs. And mine was at 1 when I was 0-5. And I buckled down and I made some serious moves. And here I am now on a 3-way tie for second place in my division. And I'm really proud. I feel like as a football fan, this is like the closest you can get to being a GM.
Yeah, it really
with like adding and dropping and trading and
waiver wire pickups and this and that trades. Who was your best performer on your squad, or like top 3 or something?
I don't want to say it.
Say it.
Davante Adams.
Oh no. That's why you didn't want to say it. Oh, what did he get you? Oh my God, 33 points. That's insane.
Yeah.
That was literally your best player. Out of everyone else did pretty average.
Well, CeeDee Lamb usually, I mean, last week he had me 38 points, CeeDee Lamb. So, I mean, right now with CeeDee Lamb, Davante Adams, and Mike Evans, those are like 3 really solid receivers. And then Kamara had an off week, but Stevenson's a top 10 running back in the league now. I have Kenneth Walker. There's enough juice on this team to go as far as I need. I don't have a quarterback, but I have enough other like strong position groups. I will never have to put in a running back that I'm not sure about, or a receiver, or a flex.
Kyle has just a great stable of running backs in his team. So
yeah, skill players only. I still have Russell Wilson. I'm I'm dropping him, dude.
All right. I actually won this game this week as well.
You crushed it.
I crushed the 146-97. And the best move, I think, in my opinion, was putting Justin Fields in. Yeah, benching Josh Allen and putting in Justin Fields.
I was going to say, dude, you should just trade him to me. I'm not in your division. You have another quarterback.
I was thinking about it, but we'll see, because now with Justin Fields' injury, I don't know.
Forget about that. Just let's do it and see what happens later.
No, I'll give you Russ Wilson. It's fine. I will say though, now
give me Justin Fields then. I'll take the injury. I'll take the Justin
thank
Fields
you so much for taking the injury. Thank you. I will say, I mentioned earlier, Najee Harris really showed up for me. 2 scores, 90 yards, 27 points. Chris Olave caught a really good touchdown pass from Andy Dalton, got me 21 points. And Evan McPherson got me 17 points. And this is that I had Will Lutz on the bench and he had scored 10. And I was like, if Evan McPherson gets me 10, that'll be great. And he scored 17. So I took the dub. A lot of my guys looked really good this week. Thank God, because I was on a 4-game losing streak and I finally got a dub. And I think I'll be in 3rd place of my division, still in a playoff hunt. So I'm hoping this continues going forward.
Dude, I can't
let us know. Sorry, go ahead.
I can't believe you didn't start Allen Robinson.
I picked him up because I thought, hey, Cooper Kupp's out. That's the only guy he could go after now. So
you picked up. I thought you had him all year.
I had him all year. Yeah, I had him all year up until like week 5 or something, where I was like, okay, I've lost all hope. And then I picked him back up after Cooper Kupp got injured. So yeah,
that's fair. That makes
sense.
Hopefully
you guys' fantasy football is going a little bit better than Kyle and I, although we've been on the up and up now recently. So hopefully you guys are doing better. I'm 4th in my division. I think I'm about to move into 3rd, and I think you're moving into a 3-way tie for 2nd. You said, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Not bad for being 0-5.
No, not bad at all. I like it. Do you have anything else for this episode, Kyle? If not, let's sign off. And wave the people off.
That's all I got. You guys can follow me on Twitter at FTBL Only Podcast to see my retweets of Let's Cry.
Broncos country, let's cry.
Yeah, and then we'll see you on our Thursday episode. Where can they find you, Rick?
So on Twitter, you could find me at @andnowrick. You can follow us here at Star 6 Media at Star 6 Media on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Facebook. All the platforms you guys are watching us now. And yeah, you're getting a lot of content right now. You're getting a lot of World Cup content from EAFP with Eric. He's giving you daily content every day from the World Cup. Obviously, you're getting your NFL fix here at Only Football, all sports at JCA Sports Podcast, all your MMA and wrestling at Sports Strip Live, your baseball at 3 Up 3 Down, your hockey at Slot Shop. Bam, bam. I like it, Kyle. I like it. And of course, all your Chicago content at Big Leagues Chicago. But yeah.
Where's the drag racing?
The what?
Drag racing?
Like NASCAR? Yeah, the drag racing. God, we haven't gotten there yet. I know it's huge. I know Kyle loves it. Hopefully I think Kyle's going to come up with a drag racing podcast here soon.
Yeah, it's going to be called Jeff Gordon.
Oh God, that's gonna be great. But all right, man, great time, and we will hold on. Yep. Anything else before we get out of here?
Nope, that's all I got. We'll see you Thursday.
All right, see ya.
See ya. Happy.